Today I bring you my Inferno Chaos Witch build for Path of Exile 2. This is a build I've been working on from the very start, a build which is still very much a work in progress, but due to the amount of people wondering what setup I'm using via watching my videos and seeing me just destroy things, I decided to drop you guys a video on what's going on here. How's it going, guys? My name is DPJ. Now, do you guys want to win 300 points? Well, it is as simple as this. Drop a like on this video, leave me a comment down below and make sure you are subbed. I'll pick a winner from the comment section and announce them in a couple of days, so good luck everybody. So this build is very much, like I said, a work in progress. One that will be updated as I play, but one I will state has carried me through the entire game and every boss put in front of me. The goal for this build was to mainly use chaos, with a few flames added in, but at the same time an equal balance of mobbing massive amounts of enemies, but also being great on bosses at the same time. This build is a mix of chaos and fire, but other elements are added in here and there, which you'll see as we go through it. Now, the build and I myself are happy for advice on obvious things which I can do to make it better. I ain't great with numbers and percentages. I mean, the way I see it is, if it works and works well, I don't really care about the maths, and that's where I've gone with this. What I have put together here though is obviously a progression kind of thing. It's a build you can work towards as a new player and use throughout your playthrough. So where do we even start with this? Let's firstly go to my skills, and because of my first skill, we need to talk about the Ascendancy skill tree. So in regards to the Ascendancy tree, I went with the Infernalist, but this is one of those things I'm still experimenting with. I like the idea of the Hellhound, but if I'm truly honest, it wouldn't be a massive miss if players even decided to go completely different in regards to choosing the Blood Mage. Now, I mention this because the first skill, like I said, you can see is the Inferno Hound, which I mean is useful. It's a useful minion due to the damage it takes for you, which is why I actually went here, because I thought as I play things are going to get a lot harder obviously, and things are going to hit harder, and I feel it's definitely helping. But again, it wouldn't be a massive miss if you went a different way. The Chaos Bolt skill here, guys, is tied to my wand. This doesn't matter, and the one you choose can have any skill on it. This is actually a skill I don't use in my build whatsoever. Now, my spell combo for max damage or try to create corpses, which I will come to in a second, will normally start with Despair, and this curse lowers the enemy's resistance to chaos damage, which is great for what we're going on here. Support skills we are using are Decaying Hex to add in that extra chaos damage, Heightened Curse, and Energy Barrier. The next spell we use to maximize our damage combo is Contagion. This is massively important, and what it's capable of is utterly unreal. I don't feel I need to explain what this does, but keeping it short for those that do not know, it applies chaos damage over time to a single target. If that target dies, which it definitely will, it spreads chaos damage to all enemies in the surrounding area. It literally, how I've built this, guys, for mobbing, it does disgusting things. Now, the support gems here, I won't lie, I keep testing different things out. The only one I really like is Persistence. Hindu is nice also. This is very important for some of the actual nodes we have selected on our passive skill tree, which we'll come to. The next skill I use is Essence Drain. This is the main spell I use. It's like the instigator here. This, when it hits any target affected by my Despair and that Contagion, they are likely to die, and then start that spread of Contagion. Support gems I'm using right now are Ricochet, Pierce, and Wild Shards. It's nice when it activates and everything works out when I'm surrounded. I mean, it's like a frenzy of projectiles everywhere, which I love, but I am switching out these support gems quite often, so these are probably something I won't stick with. Now, I then do throw in that Dark Effigy, which spawns in a totem which fires at enemies affected by that chaos damage over time, and there's a lot of that going on here, and this thing just does great damage, it really does. Support gems here I use are Acceleration, so it shoots quicker, Momentum, and Considered Casting. Again, here I'm just experimenting and trying to stack that damage, and right now it's working completely fine. We then, which I will add, I've just started using, is Soul Offering. This is the next spell we go to. This, I will sacrifice one of my minions and gain an extra 32% spell damage bonus. Support gem here I'm using is Font of Blood. We then use a Vulnerability, which I love for elites, bosses and groups of enemies, as it allows for my attacks to ignore large portions of armor. It's a skill I can't say I use very often, but it does come in very handy, that's for sure, especially against those harder hitting enemies. Support gems here, I'm using Magnified Effect and Ritualistic Curse. We then use the Skeletal Snipers. Here guys, I'm only really using these to sacrifice for my soul offering, but they can add in some great poison damage into the mix, which is never a bad thing. We then guys use Raging Spirit, which ties in perfectly with our other fire spell we indeed use and use quite often, which is Detonate Dead. With every corpse I create by taking enemies out with whatever I'm using, I can then explode and do some serious damage. Also igniting enemies thanks to the support gem I'm using in Ignition. I also use Spell Echo here, which I may swap out, I ain't sure. But yes, with Detonate Dead, I also spawn in those Raging Spirits which seek down those targets. With this setup also, using corpses buffs my spell damage, which is absolutely perfect here. Now combo wise, fighting a boss, it's normally the case of me dropping that Despair on that boss, then using Contagion, then hitting said boss with my Essence Drain, and then putting out my Dark Effigy. And then I usually use my Soul Offering to buff my spell damage, and then normally just repeat this cycle. Sometimes if needs be, I'll use my vulnerability on that boss too. Now against mobs of enemies I'd normally do the same here, but as soon as I see a corpse, which does not take long, I start exploding those corpses using Detonate Dead, which like I said buffs my spell damage, it spawns in those Raging Spirits. It does absolutely nutty things here, and things just start stacking with that Contagion being a spell which can spread via you taking out enemies. It's just utterly unreal, it's like a fogfest of damage and spreads like a wildfire. It's great to see too. Now onto my passive skill tree. I started this with a balance of survivability and then went on to spell and chaos damage. So that's where we were taking this. So we firstly drift off to the left and make our way to that spiral into insanity. Then guys make our way up, but not missing those chaos damage nodes here too. We then come to this point here, come down to Potent Incantation, and then continuing right for that lingering horror. We then go up slightly to that hindered capabilities because of our Contagion, also hindering enemies. This is great. Then up again, and we use both nodes here of corpses, where when you use a corpse this will increase your damage, which is great. We then travel up and make our way to Spaghettification, which does loads including movement speed, increased attributes and that chaos damage. Here though it will lower your chaos resistance, so keep that in mind. We then guys travel upwards and right and make our way around this swirl to Pure Chaos here, which is another great node I do recommend you investing your time in, especially if you're going for that chaos damage like me. Now if we travel back to the fork, we also go up and left to Void. Now my current level is around a 60, I have plenty of levels to go and will start to invest in nodes like Zone of Control and then look for more damage and then probably survivability. Now in regards to the gear that I am wearing, I've literally traded for all of this using the traded site and just spending my exalts, and you can see what I'm using on screen now. Now on my weapon I'm looking for damage increases, intelligence, life, mana, etc, etc. In my offhand I use a focus due to allowing me to have even more damage, mana as well as those resistances. My helmet, gloves, sandals, chest piece, belt are all centered around survivability, trying to spread out those resistances but also add to life, shield and mana. Now my rings are a mix of both, offering chaos damage, life, mana and so forth, with my amulet also giving us the remaining spirit we need for our sniper minions and our raging spirits, but also giving us that increased chaos damage too, and also other modifiers like crit chances and so forth. And my charm I just changed depending on the time and place I am at, people. But yeah, there we have it. That is my Inferno Chaos Witch build. It is right now as I'm going into Cruel Act 3. It's just making everything a walk in the park. Once you get this down guys, it's so easy to use. Bosses, just a walk in the park. I mean obviously seeing some crazy builds out there witches can't really contend, but at the end of the day there are plenty of witches out there looking for a decent chaos build. I've seen some great minion builds too, especially endgame ones, but I haven't really seen many chaos builds. and it's why I wanted to bring you guys my one and what I have going on here. Like I said, there's plenty of room for improvement here. If you have any advice for me on what I could do to make things better, especially those support gems, because sometimes I feel like even though I can equip them, I'm not sure a lot of them will actually trigger and work. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm crap with maths. I'm crap with percentages. If it works, it takes that enemy out, I'll leave it on. Simple as that, guys. But yes, there we have it. The Inferno Chaos Witch build. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, leaving a like really helps out. If you like what you see and want to see more, be sure to subscribe. And hopefully, guys, I will see you on that next one.